If a human ever beats me, I'll marry him. Alien girl laughed. Too late, The arena hummed with low electric anticipation, not from the lights or machines, but from the crowd. Thousands of voices whispered, laughed, hissed in unison, like a jungle preparing to pounce. Above them, the great violet moons of Virek hung like twin eyes, watching with amused disdain. And in the center, beneath the high banners of the Thalrin Empire, she stood, tall, lethal, smirking. Commander Solari Velruna, heir to the Fifth Blade, undefeated in single combat, and clad in a gleaming armor that flickered like stormlight. Her skin was the shimmer of polished dusk, and her eyes, obsidian and rimmed with silver veins, held a cruel amusement that didn't need words. But she used them anyway. Humans, she said, loud enough to carry. Soft hands, soft hearts, soft hearts. Laughter erupted from the audience. A deep, guttural wave of alien voices drunk on superiority. She walked the length of the platform like it was a catwalk, her boots clinking with confidence. They invent weapons to fight for them. They send drones to bleed instead of blood. They can't even withstand a single psi surge without their skulls cracking like fruit. Her head tilted, but they do talk big. That much I'll give them. The crowd cheered again, louder now, emboldened by her dominance. And then she paused, turning to face the delegation of Earth Federation observers. Her smile sharpened into something wicked. In fact, she said, if a human ever defeats me in combat, I'll do something truly outrageous. Her lips curled. I'll marry him. Gasps. Laughter. Applause. Someone threw a garland of red vines onto the stage. Solari caught it midair without looking and crushed it in her hand. Then, silence. A long, electric hush, as one voice cut through the din. I accept. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply there, calm, low, final. All eyes turned toward the edge of the arena. A human man stepped forward. He looked like he didn't belong here. Not in that ornate chamber of obsidian and gold. Not in the light of twin moons. Not under the stares of 1,000 predators. But he stood there anyway. His armor wasn't polished. It was scuffed, matte black, military issue from Earth's forgotten colonies. Dry dust clung to his boots. A long scar sliced down one side of his face, disappearing beneath the edge of a reinforced collar. His eyes were ice gray, quiet, unreadable, and locked on her. Captain Rian Cade, Earth Infantry. Uninvited and very, very serious. Solari's brow lifted. She laughed once. You're joking. Cade didn't blink. She stepped closer, the silence pressing down now like weight. You heard what I said. I did. You do understand, she said slowly, that it was a joke? I do. Her smirk faded just slightly. I'm not accepting a challenge, she added, voice colder. I was entertaining my people. You declared a vow, he said. Before witnesses, I accept. Under trial law that binds the challenge. The air shifted, a quiet murmur of alarm running through the watching Thalrin warriors. One of the elder adjudicators stood. His horns gleamed with authority. He's not wrong, the elder rasped. If she invoked combat by vow, and he accepts before a retract, the trial must proceed. Solari turned her head slowly. Elder Varun, you mocked trial law before the ancient banners, he said. You spoke the vow in the tongue of your ancestors. You laughed, yes, but the vow holds. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. She looked back at Cade. "You can't win." "Maybe," he said quietly, "but if I do." That was when something in her smile broke, just for a flicker. Because what she saw in his eyes wasn't lust or ego or even pride. It was calm, cold, measured intent. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind that simply doesn't stop. "You think this is a joke," she said, voice low now, just for him. "I think you're used to being feared," he replied, stepping up onto the platform. "I'm not afraid of you." The crowd had gone almost completely silent, not because of him. No one feared a human. Because of her. Because they'd never seen her hesitate, not once. Solari's jaw tightened. She stepped forward until there were only inches between them. Her breath smelled like the spice fields of her homeworld, wild, heated, unfamiliar. "You're beneath me," she hissed. "You're right," he said. But not for long. Her lips parted slightly, not quite in shock, but something close. The elder raised a hand. "Combat trial is sanctioned. First light tomorrow. No weapons but hands. No technology. No mercy." Cade turned to walk off the platform. She called after him, "You'll regret this, human." He paused at the edge, glanced back. "Hope you like being human," he said softly, and walked away. She stood still, heart pounding, unsure why her fingers wouldn't stop trembling. Not from fear, not quite. From something else. Something new. Something she didn't yet have a name for. At dawn, the arena was silent. No drums, no fanfare. Just tension so thick it might have choked the stars. The twin moons of Virak were pale ghosts now, fading behind the storm-washed horizon. The banners of the Thalrin Empire snapped in the breeze, obsidian black, edged in silver blood thread. Commander Solari Velruna stood in the center of the sand, arms bare, muscles coiled beneath ceremonial armor stripped down to minimal. She needed nothing more. Her hair was braided tight. Her jaw was locked. Her eyes dared the world to blink first. On the other end of the ring stood the human. No armor, just a sleeveless black combat shirt and loose dark utility pants tucked into worn boots. No medals. No tribe marks. No enhancements. Captain Rian Cade looked like a man who'd shown up to fix a broken machine. And maybe break a legacy in the process. The crowd didn't cheer. It watched. A duel under trial law was sacred. Older than empires. Deeper than politics. This wasn't a fight for blood. This was bond law. The most humiliating way to be claimed. The most binding way to be defeated. She'd given him this path with her words, and now it was too late to walk back. The elder's voice cut through the wind. Combatants, face. They moved forward, slow, deliberate. Her feet barely touched the sand. His boots thudded. For a breath, they stood just a meter apart. She looked him over once, scanning stance, breathing, tension. He didn't shift, didn't fidget, no fear. She hated how calm he looked. "You know," she said, "you still have time to bow out. It won't be seen as cowardice, just wisdom." Cade studied her face for a moment, then tilted his head, just slightly. "Are you trying to protect me?" "I don't enjoy executions." "Good," he said. "Neither do I." The elder raised his arm. "Begin." She moved first. A blur of motion, faster than a human eye should have tracked. A whip kick aimed for his head. Enough force to break bone. But he wasn't there. He ducked, not away, but forward, sliding under her strike, palm open, slamming into her hip just enough to twist her balance. She staggered. Not much. Just an inch. But enough. Enough to blink. Enough for her to realize he was fast. Faster than the combat readiness specs humans were supposed to cap at. She spun into a counter, elbow aimed at his throat. He caught it, not blocked, caught, and smiled, not with arrogance, but with precision, calculated confidence, like he already knew her next move. Her pride flared. Her mind went cold. She lunged again, a flurry of strikes. Ribs, neck, chest, hip. He absorbed some, dodged others, never hit back hard. He wasn't trying to beat her through pain. He was letting her see herself losing. That was worse. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the tempo shifted. He was controlling the fight, not with brute force, but pressure, footwork, balance, and patience. She landed a blow, hard, a clean backhand across his jaw. His head snapped sideways. Blood at the corner of his mouth. But he didn't fall. He straightened, licked the blood, and looked at her with something far more dangerous than rage. Stillness. Like nothing she did could truly touch him. She growled, "Fight me, coward, I am." And then he moved. One motion, 2 steps forward, inside her reach, and a twist. His arm wrapped around her waist in a grappling lock she didn't see coming, spinning her off balance, then down. The world tilted. She hit the sand on her back, hard. And his weight was above her, not crushing, not pinning, just there, unmovable, unignorable. The crowd was absolutely silent. The air between them pulsed. Her chest rose and fell sharply, jaw clenched, arms trapped under his weight. Her skin tingled where his forearm touched her ribcage. Not pain, heat. A strange cellular warmth spreading from contact points, the first spark of soul-linked contact. Her kind didn't activate bonding links this early, not without invitation. So why was it beginning? Why was her skin glowing where he touched her? "Let me go," she whispered. "You have to yield," he replied, steady. She bared her teeth. "I will not. Then I'll hold you here all day." His voice was too calm, too level, and his eyes, up close, were filled with something far more complex than conquest. He wasn't enjoying this. He was waiting for her to choose. Her limbs trembled with effort, with fury, with humiliation, and with the growing, terrifying realization that he wasn't weaker, he had never been. She had underestimated him because she didn't want to see it, because seeing it would mean everything she believed about her superiority would fracture. And now, before her people, before the stars, beneath the sacred banners, she had lost. He shifted his weight slightly, gave her a fraction of space. Enough to breathe, enough to speak. Her throat was dry. "I yield," she said, voice barely audible. The elder raised both arms. "It is done." A wave of gasps, whispers, stunned silence. Cade stood slowly and stepped back. She stayed on the ground a moment longer than she meant to, eyes closed, chest heaving. Something in her was breaking, or transforming, or both. When she rose, the wind tasted like ash. Her pride, her command, her invincibility, all scattered like dust on the floor of the arena. She turned to him, chin high, but hands trembling. "I didn't mean it," she said. "The vow." "But you said it," he answered. "And now you think I belong to you?" "No," he said, voice lower. I think you made the rules. And then he walked past her, not mocking, not smug, just done. As if winning her hadn't been his goal at all. She stood there, surrounded by the silence of 1,000 watching eyes, her breath ragged in her chest. She wanted to scream. She wanted to hit him. She wanted to understand why her heart was still racing, even though the fight was over. Especially because it was over. And somewhere inside, deeper than shame, deeper than fury, she wondered what it meant to be bound by law, to be his. She wasn't used to silence. Not this kind. Not the kind that crept into her bones and stayed there like a cold that wouldn't leave. The Thalren Command Palace was a fortress carved from moonstone and shadow, its towers rising high above the capital like spears pointed at the sky. The walls inside were always alive, shimmering with soft energy, alive with ancient tech that responded to movement, breath, thought. But now, in this wing, it felt like a mausoleum, because he was here, because she had lost, and because the bond had begun. Salari Velruna paced the length of the shared chamber, her chamber, biting back curses in 3 languages. She had disabled the doors from locking, not because she wanted him to leave, because she refused to acknowledge that he could. By the ancient warrior laws she had invoked with her own damn mouth, she was now bound to the one who bested her in trial combat, a consort, a partner in name, a shadow match. But soul link? That wasn't supposed to happen. That was rare. That was sacred. That was something else entirely. And yet it was forming. She could feel it in the air, in her blood, in the back of her throat when he was near. A subtle hum, like tension wrapped in static. She could taste him, not literally, but chemically, like a trace of ozone left after lightning strikes too close. Her skin tingled when he entered a room. Her heartbeat jumped when he passed behind her, even without a sound. And worst of all, her body responded before her mind did. That infuriated her. She turned just in time to see him, Cade, walking past the open arch into the adjoining corridor. He carried a towel slung over one shoulder, a water canister in one hand. His shirt was damp with sweat, muscles tight, scarred, controlled. He didn't look at her, didn't nod, didn't gloat. He simply passed, present but unreadable. She clenched her jaw. Stop ignoring me. He paused, turned halfway. I'm not. You've been here for 3 days, she snapped, sharing my quarters, bound to me by law, and you haven't said a word beyond necessities. You haven't asked for anything else. She stepped forward, her voice sharpening. Do you think you've won me? Claimed me? That you can just exist in the space where I breathe and it won't matter? He raised an eyebrow. Seems like it matters. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. You think I'm yours? Cade tilted his head, not coldly, curiously. You have no idea what that means to me. Then he turned and walked away. She stared after him, pulse hammering. Her skin glowed faintly at the throat, a sign of the link deepening, responding to emotional stimulus. A sign she didn't want anyone to see, especially not him. By the 4th night, she started trying other tactics. She entered the training chamber wearing the ceremonial sparring garb of her ancestors, thin wrapped cloth, molded to shape, gleaming like moonlight and smoke. 1,000 generations of warriors had worn this when choosing their mates. It was tradition, seduction through strength, She didn't do it for him. She did it to prove something to herself, that she could control this. He was already there, barefoot, sleeveless, sweat slick from his second hour of combat forms. Alone. The training room dim except for the glowing light lines on the floor. He didn't glance at her outfit, didn't stop, didn't react. She stepped onto the mat. Fight me again. No. You scared? I already won. She moved in closer. Then what are you afraid of? He met her gaze, unmoving. You. The word hit harder than a blade. For a moment, neither of them moved, their breath synchronized without meaning to. She could hear it, both their hearts, somewhere between rhythm and rupture. She narrowed her eyes. You could touch me. You could take what the bond entitles you to. Why don't you? Cade's voice came low. Because I know the difference between victory and violence. That silenced her. He turned back to the wall display, began adjusting something. She watched him for a full minute, not moving, not breathing, and then left. The next day, her pulse was out of control for no reason. It happened while she stood in the garden atrium, staring at the solar orchids, their petals folding toward the warmth. She didn't hear him approach, didn't even see his reflection on the glass. But when he passed behind her, just close enough for the air to shift, her back arched slightly without meaning to. Her skin glowed again, neck, shoulders, fingertips. She bit her lip and looked away. What the hell was happening to her? That night, she did something reckless. She entered his room, her room, technically, since everything here still belonged to her. He was sitting on the edge of the cot, boots off, shirt discarded, forearms resting on his knees. He didn't look surprised to see her. She walked straight to him, slow, deliberate, her chin raised. If I told you to kiss me right now, would you? He didn't move. No. She blinked. Why not? Because you'd hate yourself in the morning. And if I ordered you to, you're not my commander anymore. Silence. Long. Heavy. He stood. She didn't back away. Their bodies were nearly touching now, her head tilted slightly back to meet his eyes. You make me feel weak, she said, the words almost breaking. You make me feel like I still have something to lose, he answered. Her breath hitched. His hand lifted, slowly, almost to her face, but stopped an inch away. I'm not here to punish you, he said, and I'm not here to win you. I'm just here. She stepped back, her pride raw and exposed. Then, stop looking at me like you see everything I'm trying to hide. I do. Later that night, she lay in bed, facing away from him, the air between them thick with unspoken things. Her skin pulsed faintly in the dark, the soul link now strong enough to synchronize breathing, emotions, even dreams if they allowed it. She hadn't allowed it, not yet, but her body wanted to. And that was the war she couldn't win. The quarters weren't meant for two, not in any real way. They were spacious by military standards, a vaulted suite with arched doors and pale light filtered through living crystal walls. But there was no privacy, no locked doors, no closed spaces. The air shared every breath. The walls echoed every shift. There were separate sleeping zones, yes, but the bond didn't care. It had already begun. And every hour they spent together tightened its grip. Solari felt it in the quietest moments, when she turned a corner and sensed him there before he moved. When his hand brushed a table she had just touched and her fingers burned. When he sighed in another room and her heartbeat caught without reason. She couldn't explain it, didn't want to, But the soul link was growing, root by root, and she was running out of excuses. He was bleeding. Just a shallow cut across the ribs, a training accident. But the sight of red on his skin triggered something primal in her, something low and hot and immediate. She didn't think, just reacted. Crossed the floor before he even noticed her presence, snatched the medcloth from the table, and pressed it to his side. He tensed, but didn't stop her. His skin was warm, damp. The heat of his body met her fingertips and pulsed through her wrist like a current. She bit her lip, focusing on the cut. Too long, too slow, her breath shallow. "You could have used the med gel yourself," she muttered, not looking up. "I could have," he said softly. "Didn't know you were watching. I wasn't." He turned his head slightly. "Your hand says otherwise." She paused. Her palm was still against his skin. She drew it back quickly. "Don't flatter yourself. I'm not." But his voice was low now, threaded with something unspoken. She turned away, too fast. Her skin glowed faintly at the base of her neck, and she knew he saw it. Neither of them said anything. Later that night, a storm passed over the city. One of Virec's ion tempests, harmless indoors, but loud enough to shake the crystal windows. They sat across from each other at the small tea table in the center of the room. He had made a fire, the way humans did, simple and inefficient, but somehow grounding. She sipped the drink he brewed, bitter, earthy, foreign. It wasn't good, but she drank it anyway. Cade sat quietly, watching the flames. She studied him when he wasn't looking. The line of his jaw, the way his eyes didn't wander. The way he rested his arms on his knees like someone trained never to fully relax. A soldier in every breath. She wondered what it would be like if he wasn't always bracing for battle. "What are you thinking about?" she asked before she could stop herself. He didn't look up. "You wouldn't like it. Try me." He turned to her, and this time he didn't filter his words. "I'm thinking about the first time I killed someone up close. I was 17. He bled all over my hands and told me his daughter's name before he died." He sipped his tea. "I still remember the name, but I can't remember my mother's face." Her breath caught. "I told you," he said. She didn't look away. "I don't want your pity stories. They're not for pity." "Then why tell me?" He finally looked up, meeting her eyes. "Because the bond's going to show you anyway." She dreamt that night. Not her own dream, his. She stood in red dust, hearing the sharp whistle of gunfire in the distance, feeling the thud of a weapon in her hands. But it wasn't her body. It was his fear, his rage, his guilt. And somewhere in the middle of it, the feeling of a child's voice, a whisper he could never forget. She woke with a start, breath ragged, chest damp with sweat. He was standing in the doorway between their rooms. He didn't ask what she saw. She didn't ask how he knew. Their bond had entered phase 2. She cursed herself for letting it go that far. The next day, she broke something. A vase. Just a ceremonial one, but expensive and ancient. He'd asked her a simple question. "Do you want company at the council hearing?" And something in his tone, his softness, had made her snap. She hurled the vase across the room. It shattered. He didn't flinch. "Don't act like you care," she hissed. "Don't you dare." "I don't care because I'm supposed to," he said calmly. "I care because I see you fighting something you already chose. I didn't choose you." "Then break the bond." His voice was quiet, steady. She froze. Her glow had deepened. now a pulsing warmth behind her ribs when he was near. Her body responded to his proximity like gravity, but she hadn't activated the final phase. Not yet. Breaking it now would sever the soul link permanently. There would be no more shared emotions, no connection. It would be like a piece of her being amputated. And still, it was allowed. She could say it, could command it. She stared at him, throat tight. He didn't blink, didn't pressure. He just waited. Finally, she turned away, didn't say the words, and didn't know why. They stopped speaking for a full day after that, but something still moved between them. A glance, too long. A moment in the corridor when her hand brushed his arm by accident and they both froze. A quiet intake of breath when he stood behind her, and the air was too heavy to ignore. "I can't breathe when you're this close," she whispered once, without meaning to. He paused. "Then I'll move." But he didn't, and neither did she. That night, she found herself watching him again. He was training under the dimmed lights, shirtless, hands wrapped, breath steady as he worked through complex combat forms. His skin gleamed with sweat, muscles moving like they were carved from willpower. He wasn't fighting to impress. He was escaping something. She recognized it too well, the way warriors tried to outrun what they felt. The way silence filled the space between pain. She stepped forward without thinking. "Who are you fighting in your head?" He stopped mid-motion, eyes finding hers in the dark. "Not who," he said. "What?" Then he walked past her, brushing close enough that her glow ignited across her collarbone. He looked at it, said nothing. She couldn't sleep. Later that same night, she entered his space. Not as a commander, not as a challenger, just her. He was sitting on the edge of his cot, hair damp from a shower, a towel draped around his shoulders. He looked up as she entered, but didn't stand. She walked slowly, sat beside him, close enough to feel the heat from his body. "I should hate you," she said. "I know. You embarrassed me, took what I didn't mean to offer. You spoke the words. You could have let me walk away. You wouldn't have respected me if I did." Silence. Then, her voice cracked. "Why haven't you touched me?" He turned slightly. Her hand rested near his, almost brushing. "You glow when I breathe too close," he said. "What do you think would happen if I touched you?" She didn't answer. His hand lifted, slowly, paused near her cheek, not quite touching. Their breath mingled. Her skin shimmered in pulses now, soft golden heat spreading across her chest. She leaned in, slowly, trembling. Their lips were inches apart, his breath on hers, and then she pulled away, stood too fast. "I can't." He looked up at her, not angry, not disappointed, just there. "Then I won't ask you to." She walked out into the hallway, her body shaking. She didn't know what frightened her more, the way her hand still wanted to go back, or the way her heart already had. It began with silence, not the kind that brings peace, but the kind that precedes execution. She felt it the moment she stepped into the high chamber, the sudden hush of warriors who once bowed in respect, now pulling away as if her skin were poison. Even her cousins, born of the same fire-forged bloodline, would not meet her eyes. Only one word burned across the throne floor in ancient glyphs: betrayal. Cade stood to her right, calm, still, observing everything with that unblinking soldier stare. He didn't need to be told something was wrong. He could feel it. So could she. And then her aunt, High Warlord C-Rex of the Void Moons, the one who once braided her hair as a child, stood from the dais. Draped in ceremonial black, "You let the bond root," C-Rex said, voice low and sharp. "You let a human near your soul thread, and you let him live." The words echoed like a death knell. "This wasn't meant to happen," Salari said too quickly. "It was a duel, a mistake. I didn't intend, you did not end him," her aunt cut in. "And now the bond glows in your skin." Eyes turned to her, the faint shimmer at her collarbone, now constant, betraying everything. C-Rex raised a single hand. 2 guards stepped forward. "We'll remove the stain," the warlord said coldly, "efficiently, privately. And no one will ever speak of your weakness again." Cade didn't wait for translation. He moved first, a blur of motion, disarming the nearest warrior with brutal speed, flipping his staff into a bone-breaking arc. The man dropped. The second guard raised a plasma blade, and Salari reacted without thinking. She leapt forward, intercepting the blow with a shoulder-pin block and sweeping the attacker's legs. The man hit the floor, hard, and didn't get up. Cade looked at her. She looked back. No time for words. They ran. The palace corridors blazed with alert glyphs. Red lights spilled through every passage like blood. They stole a speeder, sleek, diplomatic, unarmed, and cut through the outer shield gates before the first wave of soldiers reached the launch docks. Salari gripped the console with both hands as the ship screamed through the clouds. "They'll chase us," she said, panting. "My people don't forgive." "I wasn't planning to stay for dinner," Cade muttered, spinning them into the storm corridor just beyond the upper atmosphere. "What are you doing?" "That's a death belt, exactly. No one follows into that mess unless they want to die." Lightning flared across the viewport, purple and gold veins tearing through the black. Debris from shattered moons spun in silence, sharp and fast enough to pierce hulls. Her throat tightened. "You're insane. You said I couldn't beat you, remember?" He smiled, just a little. "And gods help her." She almost smiled back. The chase began half an hour later. 3 warships, cloaked in rift armor, cut through the outer edge of the storm and began tightening formation. They fired warning blasts, designed not to hit, but to herd. They wanted to capture, not kill. Yet. "Options?" she asked. He grunted. "About 10 minutes to breach orbit and drop into dead zone. Gravity will rip the ship apart, but if we angle the drift, no escape pods, no drift. We go together." He glanced at her. "We will." And for the first time, she didn't doubt it. A blast tore through the aft hull. Sparks rained across the console. The control screen flickered, hissed, and died. Cade swore under his breath, wrenching the yoke sideways. The ship spiraled, pitched, and dove straight into the chaos of the storm belt. Inside, pressure whined. Their bodies slammed back into the harness seats. Outside, the clouds boiled, a tempest of ancient dust, lightning, and ice. And then, silence again. They had passed into the eye, a pocket of calm, brief, beautiful, deadly. Their ship coasted through it, smoke trailing, lights dim. And for a moment, there was no war, only them. She exhaled. Her hands trembled. He looked at her, not with triumph, not with hunger, but with quiet, stillness, respect. "I've killed for less," she said, voice raw. "I know. I was raised to be a weapon, to break bones before names, to follow bloodlines over instinct. His voice dropped. And now, she looked down. Her fingers glowed faintly where they rested on the console, a soft golden shimmer dancing along her skin. It pulsed stronger when he leaned closer. "No one's ever made me feel like I wasn't a weapon," she whispered. He didn't respond right away. Then, slowly, he reached for her hand, not forcefully, just deliberately. His fingers touched hers, warm and solid, and she didn't pull away. "You're not," he said. It hit harder than a blade, because he meant it, and worse, she believed him. The moment hung in the air, trembling between their joined hands and unspoken words. His thumb brushed across the top of her fingers, a simple touch, but her skin lit up like starlight. Their faces drew closer, his breath warmed her cheek. She felt her body lean forward, not out of instinct, but choice. And then, their lips met. Not a collision, not a claim, just heat. A breathless touch, suspended in trust and defiance, surrounded by stormlight and death circling just beyond. The kiss deepened, just slightly, as her other hand reached up, ghosting across his jaw. He didn't press. He didn't demand. He just stayed, and when they finally broke apart, she didn't look away. "I'll kill the next person who tries to take you from me," she whispered. He smiled. "You'll have to get in line." The storm around them began to collapse. Static roared. The gravity belt warned of structural breach. They were running out of time. But for the first time since this began, she wasn't afraid. Let them come. Let them chase. Let them try to tear them apart. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but something far more dangerous than betrayal had just taken root. A human and a warrior princess had chosen each other, and not even war could unmake that. They didn't sleep that night, not because of fear, not because of adrenaline, because the silence between them had become something else entirely, warm, breathing, alive. Cade sat cross-legged on the floor of the wrecked scout vessel, cleaning the edge of a blade that would not survive another duel. Across from him, Solari watched him and did not pretend to be uninterested anymore. Her face was still bruised. Her ribs ached with every breath, but none of it mattered now. The bond shimmered between them, no longer just a glow beneath her skin. Now it pulsed visibly between them. A golden arc, dancing faintly whenever they got too close, like the universe itself was aware of their decision. And she had decided. She would not run again. At dawn, the storm cloud split above the dead moon's orbit, and the ancient gates of Virex Ka opened to receive their blood-born princess one final time. The people had gathered, not to cheer, not to celebrate, to judge. An honor duel had gone too far. A sacred warrior bond had rooted in alien soil. The Warlord's Council demanded restoration. Either Solari would renounce the human and break the link in ceremony, or face exile. Her people expected her to kneel before the throne, as custom demanded, and reclaim her place by washing the blood away. But she didn't kneel. She didn't even stop walking. She stepped into the chamber, her armor scuffed, her braid half undone, hand clasped tightly in his. Gasps rippled through the high-born crowd. At first, they thought it was a trick, a hostage ritual, a forced display. But then she let go of his hand and stepped forward alone, up the obsidian stairs, toward the throne. Her mother, Supreme Matrone Vyloth, sat in silence, eyes narrowed, hands folded like twin blades. She didn't blink. Salari of the ninth flame, the matron said coldly. You return with the human. Not a human, Salari replied. Her voice rang like metal against stone. My human. A murmur broke across the room like breaking glass. You still call the bond valid? Veilave hissed. I do. Then you choose exile. No. Salari took a breath. Her voice cracked, just once. I choose something else. She turned, faced the chamber, faced him. He hadn't moved. Still watching her, still unreadable, but his eyes, God's, his eyes. She knew them now. She dreamt them. She bled for them. And she loved him for it. Not because he'd beaten her. Not because he hadn't touched her. Because when she'd stood on the edge of who she was raised to be, he hadn't pulled her back. He let her choose who she wanted to become. She raised her chin. You all heard the words I said once, she called out. If a human ever beats me, I'll marry him. You laughed. They did not laugh now. Well, he beat me. Her smile was sharp, soft, honest, and I'm glad. Another ripple of disbelief surged. One counselor dropped his ceremonial cup. Another tried to stand and was waved down. She turned back to her mother. I won't kneel to break the bond, Salari said, because it's not a chain. It's a choice. You betray your lineage, Valathi said, rising. You shame your ancestors. No, Salari replied. I am my ancestors, and I say the old ways are over. Her mother raised her hand. Executioners stepped forward, weapons hummed, and then she stepped down from the throne. Not in fear, not in surrender, in peace. She walked to Cade, slowly. Each step felt like it weighed the world. When she reached him, she took his hand again. Not with hesitation, but with devotion. And that's when the light came. The bond didn't just glow, it ignited. A wave of gold and violet flame, not burning, but healing, burst from where their fingers touched. It swept through the chamber, silencing all murmurs, all protests, all breath. Everyone could see it now. It was real, not chemical. Not political, sacred, a soul link completed by choice, not conquest. The chamber fell to its knees, not by law, by all. Even her mother said nothing. Later, on the balcony of the high tower, as wind braided itself through the room, by all, even her mother said nothing. Later, on the balcony of the high tower, as wind braided itself through the ruins of the storm season, Salari leaned against the stone rail and looked out at her people. They'll rewrite the stories, she said softly. They always do. Cade stood beside her, arms folded. And you? She asked. Do you regret it? He glanced at her. Which part? She hesitated. All of it. He stepped closer. His voice was quiet. You asked me why I never touched you. Back then, I remember. I didn't want you to think I wanted to own you. Her eyes lifted to his. And now? He brushed a strand of silver hair from her cheek. Now I know. You can't be owned. You can only be chosen. She leaned in, and this time she kissed him first. Not breathless, not afraid, but fully. And when they broke apart, glowing gold in the dark, she whispered, I thought you wanted to own me. Turns out, you freed me. He smiled. You made a vow, he said. I just made it real. The end.